Lomman here again on behalf of Complete Men TV, and I'm here with Dom, who's a regular here at Robina where we're recording, and Dom's been coming here for the last 3 years. I first met Dom here 3 years ago, and had the pleasure of actually driving him home sometimes because he actually went out of his way to catch the bus to get here. So, was it 10 Ks or something like that?
Yeah,
I guess, from surface to get here.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
And the effort that Dom put in and the results that he's got are outstanding, really. So, Dom, when you were first introduced to men's group, how was your state of health? How was your state of being?
It was quite poor, really was poor. I'd had a major back operation and I'd stopped work and I was unable to work. And I had to come to terms and deal with my mental health. I'd battled bipolar for 24 years and through my working career. And I had to really take stock and address it once and for all because I had to come over very strong when I was immobile. And I had quite a few hospitalisations over a 12-month period. And I had to start listening to the doctors and taking the medication. I'd been off alcohol for 2 years, and so it was quite poor. So when I came to men's group, I was on my comeback trail. I hadn't drank for a year and a half, and I was really looking for a place to connect. I was very isolated. I was living in a very small place, like a bedsit and surface. And because I didn't drink, I didn't go to pubs because I wasn't working away with all the men I worked with for years and my mates. I was really, really isolated. So coming here gave me a form of connection, just to interact with blokes, other blokes. Yeah,
because I guess a lot of your life was working on construction, wasn't it? It was working up north and working in different mining fields and towns. So a lot of that would have been that you're with guys all the time.
7 days a week.
Yeah, and then you end up in a situation where the mental health isn't going so great, and the isolation may have really added to the problems that you were having, I guess, at the time.
Yeah, and the culture. I did fly and fly for 22 years. Drinking was very big in the culture.
Yeah.
Especially around my age group. Fortunately, the younger men are coming through and they're taking a bit more care of themselves, but alcohol was a great way for me to deal with my mental health. And, of course, we were indolent. So we would work and we would drink and then we would eat and we would do it all again the next day.
Yeah, it's just repeat the pattern.
Repeat the cycle,
Repeat the pattern, repeat the pattern. A bit like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, so unfortunately, during that time, I did seek help for the mental health, but I wasn't home enough to follow it up.
Okay.
I was used to work away for 7 weeks at a time in the early days, and I just needed to be here more, to be reconnected with doctors, to give me that final assistance to help me where I am today. And
that probably took a bit of time to sort out as well. I mean, it sounds like there was a bit of a struggle there.
Yeah, unfortunately around the back operation, it came to a head and I had a marriage separation and had some major financial loss and separation from my children, and I was put in a position where I really was needing to make changes in my life, and that's why I chose men's groups to try them out. Yeah,
and you reached out and you called Tim and that got you started, and you came here, and then things started to just move along for you just that little bit more.
Well, I got to really assimilate with other men. I found when I was home alone, left with my own thoughts, I really didn't have anyone to bounce them off or gauge them off. So by coming to a men's group, my story wasn't the worst and it wasn't the best, and I was situated in there. So I just felt a connection, just a form of connection. So that's what I enjoyed so much about coming in the early days.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you for that. And Dom, people often ask, what do I need to know to go to a men's group? So what do you feel are the 3 things that men really need to know? Or even a couple of things that men need to know when they say, I don't know about this mentoring stuff, I don't know if it's right for me. and you're doing a lot of phone calls now for men.
Yes. So
what are the questions they're asking?
Right. So yes, I now do the intake process as a voluntary and as an experienced man, and most men are interested in change, and around the change they ask. They're doing through a process of what sort of fear are they going to be facing when they come.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that we do here at Complete Men is we provide safe places for men to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of assurances there. And we do that through protocols. We do confidentiality, no feedback or advice is given.
Yeah. So you explain that to them those initial calls?
Yeah, we explain that. And, that's why we don't allow people just to walk in. We like to do that intake process so that everyone feels safe and everyone's on board. We don't have men walking in on top of one another and not knowing what's going on. So the intake process is a very important step for us, for taking men in, and explain to them that they have the ability to get involved in this circle of men, and explain that there's a talking stick, often known as the truth stick.
Yes.
And it's an opportunity for them to share, which is something I found very hard in the beginning.
Yeah.
Coming from construction, I was taught not to share.
Yeah.
And especially not to tell how I felt.
Yes.
That was certainly kept to myself.
Oh, yeah, we don't talk about our feelings.
No, we don't talk about our feelings. No. So, and of course, it's very un-Australian to talk about oneself. So, it's a whole new setup.
Yes.
To actually talk about oneself and how I feel, and we use I language, and it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took me many months to be able to do that, and then when I got to speak about what was going on for me, and make myself a bit vulnerable, then I was able to grow.
Yes.
And that's why I really got into the men's work, and I realised the growth that I can achieve from opening up. But it took some time. It didn't happen overnight.
And the other thing for men to know, I guess, is also that they don't have to say anything when they first come.
No, that's correct, David.
As Tim says, when he first arrived, he would sit back and listen. And often, I've sat in the circle sometimes when I first started, and it was like, I wonder what I'm going to say next. I wonder what when it's my turn, what am I going to say? Rather than just being present. So more than anything, it's about how can we help men be present? Be present to their issues, their pain, their hurts, and also help them get out of it.
Correct.
As well.
Correct. And trust is a big thing.
Yeah.
Trust has to be earned, and it takes time.
Yes.
And sometimes it's a bit of, through sharing on current issues in the circle.
Yeah.
I can speak for myself. I then began to feel comfortable.
Yes.
And not afraid.
Yeah.
And obviously now we can talk about any issue. There's nothing we can't talk about.
Yes. It gets that way, doesn't it?
Yes.
After a while. And it's a great bunch of men too that you can build friendships with.
Great bunch of men. What I recall, I also remember in the earlier days, very bright bunch of men, passive, non-aggressive. I was isolated, and I remember coming here and I saw all these men hugging one another, saying hello and goodbye, and so here I was in an isolated situation, and then all of a sudden I'm getting 20 hugs at the beginning of the night, and then 20 hugs at the end of the night, so it was just a great way to form connection.
Yeah, and the other thing is it's not compulsory.
No, it's not compulsory.
When men first come through the door, it's more of a, how are you doing?
Yeah,
welcome.
That's exactly
Good
right.
to see you.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Dave.
And as they open up, then the hugs can start.
Yeah, sure.
When they're ready.
Yeah, and it's a lot to do with safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dom, is there anything you do differently? Is there anything that you look at now, you look back and you say, back then, if I had that time over again, this is what I would do differently? Any advice for other men?
Well, I can only speak for myself, David. I come from a real place of hurt. And the truth is, it took me many months to come.
Yeah.
I heard about Complete Men like 6 months before I even came.
Yes.
So, I always congratulate men when they come, because I think it's a fantastic achievement that they're here in such a short amount of time.
Well, we have men sit in the car and not even come in.
But it's true. I've often met men at the footpath.
Yeah.
And it might take 2 or 3 calls before they just feel confident to make that next step, and that's what I do. But going back to what I would do differently, I probably wouldn't do anything differently. I came from a place of deep sadness from where I was. I was very isolated. I had a lot of loss in my life.
Yeah.
And again, I had a real issue with opening up. It was very, very difficult for me. So the only thing I would probably do, looking back, is maybe have a bit more trust in myself, and instead of telling great stories, go a little bit deeper and just talk about the real stuff, the stuff I didn't want people to know about.
Yeah.
And then again, through that, I got my greatest growth.
Yes.
And that's why I'm here today.
Yeah. And that is difficult for men, isn't it? It's difficult to be able to get to their truth, to get to their... And a lot of... my feeling is that a lot of men have been told they're not good enough, or they're not this, or they're not that, and they carry that with them. And then they're expecting to be told the same thing when they arrive, like a therapy group or something. Whereas with the men's group, it's different. It's a sharing, caring place.
Yeah, I like it. It's run by men.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I liked about it in those early, when I first started in it. And men with life experience.
Yes.
And men that have the ability to listen.
Yeah. And
listening is a wonderful, wonderful tool.
It is. It is a wonderful tool, and it's a big part of the men's group movement is the listening. Dom, you've taken on some responsibility since you've joined men's group, and you've been coming regularly, and you've taken on that responsibility. What do you feel is the number one reason why you've stayed so deeply involved and taken on that role?
For me, it's the growth that I've had since attending men's group. In my working career, I became very one-dimensional. It was just work, and when I was at home, I had the family time. Through doing men's work and doing weekends away and reflective practice weekends and all these wonderful things that are available, which I never heard of or never knew existed, I realised that there was a whole range of activities out there that I can have in my life. And I just continue to learn and grow and have learning outcomes every time I come each week, and I take something away with me, and I just want to share that with other men, and by doing that I get to remind myself about self-care. And since I've been coming, I've gone back and done a lot of studies.
Yes.
I've completed some studies now, and it's almost like it's a new launch pad for me. I've been at 40. I was in my mid-40s when I came to you here, and I've done a lot of training, and I'm doing stuff that I never thought I would ever do. Coming from my trade background, and I'm now moving into mentoring, and I really, really am enjoying that as well.
Yeah, and you've got Lomman experience to bring to the table that others don't have. So you're not a theoretician, shall we say. You're someone who's lived through it and come out the other side of it, getting stronger and stronger as you go, which is really beneficial, I feel, for any men's work that is being done.
Yeah, certainly, and I do have a story to share, and it is, I did identify as having very lived experience with very severe mental illness.
Yeah. And
through association and support and backing and doing the right things, I now experience lived experience in recovery and health and happiness and all the wonderful things that life has to offer. And so I'm very, very pleased where I'm at now, and I continue to do these works to continue to grow and become the man that I want to become.
Yeah. What I hear from that is that you're actually giving back. You know, that this is a service for you. You are giving back.
Sure, and certainly so many men gave to me and still do. And still got so much more to learn, and facilitating is one way to do that, and that's something I really enjoy now. And there's just so many different learning outcomes from it, and it can be done over and over, and just with different men, and you just get so much great feedback.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nice when occasionally people say it gets a bit inspirational, so
yeah,
it's wonderful to get those positive remarks.
So Dom, just a bit about benefits, right? You must have seen benefits for men, other men, and benefits you've personally experienced yourself. We've talked a little bit about that, but I wonder if you could just go into that a little bit more, about the benefits you've seen for other men. You've seen lots of men come through. Some stay and they're part of the core group, others feel that they've achieved what they wanted and they go off and do their own thing again.
Sure. So, Dave, we've got men from 18 to 80, so I've certainly seen a lot of things over these years. And what offers me hope and others is men come in through, being experienced separation.
Yeah.
And we've seen men come through and get a bit of healing and a bit of strength and start backing themselves. And, they may not have moved forward with new relationships, but some do.
Yes.
And that's something that I think is fantastic. We see people, some people are really on struggle street. And they just get to get their confidence back. We also see men that aren't in those situations and are just coming through for growth.
Yes.
They want to better themselves.
Yeah.
Be better partners, better friends, better family members. So through the facilitation we offer across all the groups, there's just so much to learn. It just never ends. The learning never ends. And I've had so much self-discovery as the other men have.
Yeah.
And that is what it's all about. Yeah. Just continual learning.
And to me, when men stop blaming themselves and they stop beating themselves up, that's when the benefits really start.
Yeah.
When they accept responsibility and at the same time they're not beating themselves up because of things they didn't know.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
And the skills they didn't have.
Sure.
So this is more about teaching men they don't have to know everything.
No.
They absolutely don't.
But open themselves up to learning.
Yes.
And as I mentioned earlier on, I class myself as being one-dimensional. I knew work. I was good at work. I loved work.
Yeah.
And of course, when I had my back injury, everything fell apart.
Yes.
Marriage fell apart. I fell apart.
Yeah.
So just having these opportunities, I just didn't know these things existed.
Yeah. I
didn't know I could live different ways and understand and learn about all these different wonderful values that are available. It's just continue to learn and continue and work towards happiness. And I think that is my greatest takeaway.
Yeah, and that's great. So Dom, there's been lots of personal issues that you've had coming into men's group.
Yep.
And then while you've been in men's group, of course, there's been other personal issues that come up.
Yeah.
What do you feel has kept you going through those difficult times? What's made it, is there anything that's made it easier for you? Is there anything that you can reflect on and say, yeah, that was really beneficial to me?
Sure. So what I'd like to highlight is the ability to share in circle.
Yeah.
And even though I was isolated and I had separation from my children and family and workmates and loved ones, I had the ability to share each week, and it took a long time, but as time went on, when I started to open up, each week when I came in, I had that ability to be able to talk.
Yeah.
So that in itself has been what's kept me coming back.
Okay.
Just the consistency.
And it's talking without judgment. It's talking without, nobody's going to tell you you're wrong. Nobody's going to tell you what to do or how to do it. Nobody's going to say, oh, well, you could have done that differently, or you could have done this or that, because that's part of the protocols. And it's those protocols which I feel, especially since I've been doing the men's work, that they hold the whole thing together. Have you felt that as well?
Yeah, and they keep me safe.
Yeah.
And they keep all the men safe, and allows you the ability to do a light share or get really deep and share something that you don't want anyone to know.
Yes.
That's something that's a bit of a thing for us, you know. We often share what we do want you to know, because we want you to know the good stuff.
Yes.
And then we'll come back to what we don't want you to know.
Yeah.
And that's the uncomfortable stuff. And for me, when I share the uncomfortable stuff, the things I don't want people to know, I get to walk out lighter.
Yes. It's like you've taken it off your shoulders and you put it down.
And then I allow myself to get into the real stuff.
Yes.
And then resolve it,
yeah,
as I have,
yes,
as you know.
Yes.
And move forward.
Yeah.
And again, coming back to working on happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dom, it's been a fantastic journey. I'm glad I've been able to share part of it with you. Hi everyone. I'm here with Dom Chant, and Dom is a man who stepped up in life into leadership role with Complete Men. And we're here in the Robina Centre, or just near the Robina Centre, talking about what Dom's been through in his life and how he's overcome a lot of it, and what it's been like for him to be part of the Complete Men Foundation group. So we've got 3 groups. We have a group at Robina where everything started. We have a group at Coomera, and we have another group at Tweed, and then shortly there'll be another group at Byron Bay. So the idea is to bring men into these groups so that they can get the same sort of benefits as Dom has got, as you'll hear in his story. And because we're not in judgment and we're not giving advice, it's a safe place for men to come. So invite any man who's in struggle, who really wants some assistance or support, or just to mix with other men of a like nature, to check out the men's groups. Whether it's our group, Complete Men Group, or other groups, there are men's groups near you, or you can have the opportunity to actually form one yourself. So this is David Lomman from Complete Men TV, signing off after my interview with Dom Chant. Thank you, Dom.
Thank you, David.